All right, Javos, say good morning. Let's begin. So today's daf is ches. A lot to do today. We are picking up on Zayin Amud Beis, and I will say we are picking up the Ma'akim Mifligi. Just 4 lines up from the bottom, last 2 words on the line. The Ma'akim Mifligi. So I will say, remember again, we saw fundamental machlokes about the nature of tefillah. Does supplication for one's needs come first and then prayer, or prayer first and then supplication? What are they arguing about? Both say a person should first praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then he should daven. Where do we get this from? Minalan, Mimoshe Rabbeinu, D'chsiv, both say in Parshas Veschanon, Hashem Elokim Atah Chilos Ala Roses Avdecha. Because Moshe Rabbeinu says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribbon Shem, you have begun to show your servant, Eskad L'cha, your greatness. Moshe Rabbeinu first praises God, and then Uksiv Basrei Ebrana, and only afterwards does Moshe Rabbeinu request. So first he praises, Chosh Baruch Hu, you're amazing, and then ultimately let me go into Eretz Yisrael. Top of Chesed Bosai. Rabbi Yeshua says we're not from Moshe Rabbeinu. Therefore, again, the proper Seder at Tefillah is to go ahead and first praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then lodge your supplications. Rabbi Eliezer Savar, Lo Yafina Mi Moshe. No, you can't learn from Moshe. Why? Shiny Moshe de Rav Guvrei. Moshe Rabbeinu is different. Moshe Rabbeinu speaks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu upon him. Moshe Rabbeinu has a unique dialogical connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and as such, again, his behavior does not serve as a paradigm, ultimately, again, for future tefillah framework. So the Chum say, Lo ki divrei zeh v'lo ki divrei zeh. It's neither. Rather, Elo shol adam tzracha b'shomei tefillah. Both say the Chachamim say neither. The Chum say Yidav and Shmona Esrei. And where does one lodge one's individual supplicatory pleas? So that's done in Shomei Tefillah. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel Halacha Shol Adam Tzrachav Shomei Tefillah. So I'll say ultimately again, Rabbi Yehuda says the name of Shmuel. The halacha is that a person asks for their supplications in the middle of Shomei Tefillah. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Shmuel Bar Shila. We'll say first one line Chesed Aleph. Mishmei Derav Afa Pi Shamru Shol Adam Tzrachav Shomei Tefillah. Even though we said that a person could ask for his needs in Shomei Tefillah, avalim ba lomar besov kol bracha ubracha mein kol bracha ubracha omer. Because here's what's interesting: as much as apparently the Gemara says that it is proper to ask for one's requests in Shomei Tefillah, that's the place where you do it. However, you could ask for individual requests in the associated bracha. So, for example, in Rifa'inu, if I need a refuah shalema, or I know someone else needs a refuah shalema, I could ask for refuah in that bracha. If I need parnasa, I could ask for parnasa in Baruch Aleinu. If I need better memory retention, I could ask for that in Atachonin La'adam Das. So the idea over here is, as much as Shomei Tefillah seems to be the central tefillah in which we go ahead and could ask for anything and everything, but you could ask for individual associated requests in their associated brachas in Shmona Esrei. The Gemara says, so if you have somebody Nebuch who needs refuah shalem, you can ask for it in Rifa'inu. If you need parnasa, you say it in Baruch Aleinu. Levi says, even though we said that a person should ask for his supplications in Shomei Tefillah, nevertheless, avalim ba lomar achar tfilaso afilu kisidir yom kippurim omer. So we'll say, Rabbi Shmuel Levi is now adding something else. Not only could one ask anything and everything in Shomei Tefillah, but at the end of Shmona Esrei, bless you, at the end of Shmona Esrei, a person could add in whatever supplications they want. And even if a person wants to do the entire Seder of Yom Kippur, obviously it's a bit hyperbolic, end of Shmona Esrei refers to after Hamvarech Esamo Yisrael Bashalom, before Elokai Nitzor. So one could add in whatever they want in that field. So we'll say, bottom line, halacha lemaisa, we actually accept all of these opinions. We'll say we model our structure of tefillah after Moshe Rabbeinu, and that is why Shmona Esrei first has praise, first has shevach, then has bakasha, then has request, then has hoda'ah, then has thanksgiving. That structure comes from Moshe Rabbeinu. That's number one. Number two, in every bracha on Shmona Esrei, one is permitted to lodge requests thematically associated with that particular bracha. Number three, Shomei Tefillah is the bracha where one could ask for all of their requests. And number four, at the end of Shemona Esrei, after Hamvarech Esamo Yisrael Bashalom, one could go ahead and use that section there before Elokai Netzor for any type of petitional supplication that one wants. Good. Says the Mishnah. We'll say back to the Yamim Tovim of the Avoda Zara. The Ilu Eidin Shel Avdei Kochavim. We'll say these are the Yamim Tovim of the Avdei Kochavim. What are they? Kalanda, Visachruna, or Satranura, really. Satranura, Vikartisim. So we'll say these are the names of the Roman holidays, as we're going to see. The Yom Ginusya Shel Malchehem. We'll discuss what Ginusya means. The Pashtus, what it means is the day of the coronation of a king. The Yom Haleida, the day that the king was born. The birthday of the king. The Yom Hamisa, the yard site of the king. Divrei Rabbi Meir. So we'll say these are all like official Yamim Tovim. These are Rabbi Meir. V'cham the Chum say, Kol Misa Sheyish Basreifa. This is actually very interesting. We're going to spend some time focusing on this, not in the Mishnah, but later on in the Gemara. Chachamim say, any time that when a king dies, his possessions are burned, that becomes a day of idolatrous service. So we'll say we will see that at certain, we'll discuss it for certain kings. One of the ways they used to give the king kavod is that when the king died, they would burn all of his possessions. Why would they burn all of his possessions? I was saying, so that no one else should use it. And it was a demonstration. By the way, you'll see actually in Judaism, right? We have a somewhat. We actually have somewhat of the same motif by the king, not in such a destructive way. But we'll discuss that. So any time that they would burn the possessions of the king as a son, I mean, this, when the king died, they burned his possessions, that usually became an Avoda Zara Dika Yom Tiv as well. However, again, but if the king died and they didn't burn his possessions, then usually, again, the anniversary of his death, his yard site, did not become an Avoda Zara Dika Yom Tiv. Aval. So we'll say these are all national days. Aval Taglachas, Yom Taglachas Zikano. We'll say, but on the day that the Ovid Avoda Zara would shave his beard. So that apparently was also a personal Yom Tov. Ubeloriso. We'll say, speaking about the Beluris. You know, the Beluris was, they used to grow out like a piece of hair on the a piece of hair on the back, right? And that was called the Beluris. Every once in a while they would trim it. When you would trim your Beluris, that also was a Yom Tov. Now, we'll say these are personal Yomim Tovim. So the day in which an Akum would go ahead and trim his beard, the day in which he would go ahead and cut his Beluris, the Yom Sha'alo B'Yom Minayam, or for that matter, again, a day when he came back from a long sea journey, the Yom Shiyatzei Beis Asurin, or a day when he was let out of jail. So we'll say, or if an Ovid Kocham Sha'asa Mishta Libno, or if an Ovid Kocham married off a child. So we'll say in all of these cases, one is not permitted to transact business with that particular akum. So we'll say this. Now these are individual days in which the akum will make a yom tiv. So in any of the individual yom tiv days, you can't transact business with the akum. And so asr ela osa yom va'osa ish bilvad. So we'll say the prohibition to transact business is on that day and with that person. Amrav Chanan Barava Kalanda Ches Yamim Achar Tkufa. So we'll say Kalanda is idolatrous Yom Tov observed 8 days after the winter solstice, what we call the Tekufa of Teves. Satarnura Ches Yamim Lifnei Tekufa. Satarnura Bosai was observed for 8 days before the solstice. This simonich Achor vekedem Sartani. Bosa, listen to this. Where did this Yom Tov come from? Bosa, get ready for this. Ten Rabbanan. Lefi Shara Adam Harishon Yom Shemismait Vaholech. Bosa, Adam Harishon saw that the days were getting shorter. So what happens? Amar Oili Shema B'Shosha Sarachti Olam Choshuch Ba'adi. Adam Harishon thought that the world was growing dark because of his Avera. The Choza Tovavo, and apparently because of Averas, the world is getting dark and returning back to the state of Tovavo. V'zohi Misa Sheniknesa Alay Min Hashamayim. And this is the punishment that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has levied upon me. Amad V'yashav Ches Yamim B'Tainis B'Tfilah. Adam Harishon sat and fasted and davened for 8 days. Then what happened? Kevan Shera Tekufas Teves. It will say once Tekufas Teves came along, and what happened? The days began to get longer. V'ra'a Yom Shemarich V'Holech. He then saw the days got longer. So we'll say Amar Min Hagam Shel Olamu. He saw this is not a punishment, but rather again this is just the natural order of the world. Therefore, what? Halach Va'asa Shmona Yamim Tovim. We'll say he went ahead and he made 8 days of Yom Tov. Right? So remember, on the 8 days before the solstice, he was going ahead and fasting because the days are getting short. He thought the world was coming to an end. When ultimately, again, that turns around and he realizes the days are getting longer, he realizes it's not a punishment, Olam Kimin Hago Noheg. And then what happens, Rabbi say? He went ahead and he made 8 days of Yom Tiv. What happens? L'shana acheres asan le'ilu ve'ilu yamim tovim. So we'll say ultimately again the next year he observed both sets of days, the 8 days before the solstice and the 8 days after the solstice as Yamim Tovim. So we'll say what happened? Hu kaval Mashem Shamayim. Adam Arishon instituted these days as a Yom Tov for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But over time, Haim kaval Mashem Avodas Kochavim. Ultimately, I will say, unfortunately, what happened over time is they turned into days of Avoda Zara. We'll say, I'll just say something. There's an incredible mussar in this. Incredible mussar is when Adam Arishon, when the days start getting shorter, so he sees, a message from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Then what happens over time? He says, Olam Kimin Hago Noheg. It's just the natural order of things. So we'll say, sometimes, now Adam Arishon happened to be correct, but sometimes again, it happens to us in life also. Things happen to us in life, or we see events in life, and we see such a dramatic message from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The problem is, if you don't act on it. The problem is, if it doesn't become an immediate impetus for change, then what happens? It's so easy to just begin to say, it's not a message. Olam kimin hago noheg. That's just the natural order of the world. That's why when something dramatic happens, and there's no shortage of dramatic events that unfold for us every single day, it's important to act on it. And it's important to realize that this was a jarring experience, this was a dramatic experience, there's a message from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, going back to our Gana Emunah, everything is message from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I need to act now, because otherwise I run the risk of falling into the trap of Olam Kimin Hago Noeg. So let's go back to Bishlam Laman Damar, B'Tishrei Nivra Olam. So this Gemara works fine, according to the opinion. It says that Adam Arishon was created in Tishrei. The world was created in Tishrei. Then I will say what happens. Because I will say what happens. If he's born in Tishrei, the days are still long. So then I understand how when we're getting close to Teves, and Adam sees the length of days dramatically shrink, so he begins to think the world is coming to an end. However, again, Yom Izute Chaza, Yom Arichi lo Akati lo Chaza, Elaman Damar Benisa Nivra, Ha'olam, Ha'chaza le Yom Izute, Yom Arichi. Let's say if you say that he was born in Nisan, then by definition he already saw the long and the shorter days. So why would he be worried that the world is coming to an end? To which the Gemara says, because we'll say still he hadn't seen days that were this short. So the idea is he might have seen longer days, shorter days, but to see the days this short right before Teves, ultimately again he never saw, and therefore he thought the world was coming to an end. Tan Rabbanan, we'll say another beautiful Gemara. Yom Shenivra Ba Adam Rishon. So we'll say this is same motif, just different. We'll see. So we'll say on the day that Adam Rishon was created. Now remember again, this is talking about Yom Shishi or Yom Hashishi. This is on the 6th day of creation, which was the day that Adam Rishon was created, the day that he married, the day that he fathered a family, the day that he was ejected from Gan Eden. On that day, Kevan Sheshakal Avachama, when the sun set on that day, Amar Oili. So we'll say, this is so amazing. On the first day, Adam Rishon had never seen a sunset before. So when the sun begins to set at the end of the day, he thinks that what? The world is coming to an end. He thinks that this is the punishment for his Aveira. So what happens? This is the death that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has decreed upon me. V'chava bocha kinegdo. We'll say such a profound Gemara. Chava bocha kinegdo. We'll say it doesn't say what? It doesn't say Chava bocha ito or Chava bocha betzido, because remember again there was an incredible fracture in their marriage. What was the incredible fracture in their marriage? That in that point when Chava had made her mistake, Adam Arishon, instead of telling her it's okay, we'll get through this together, what does he say? Ha'isha, right? It was Ha'isha. Aisha Sanata. It was her. So as such, again, he's crying in his corner, she's crying in her corner. They're not crying together because there's a fracture in the marriage. Kevan Shalom Shachar. We'll say when the sun came up the next day, Amar min Hagam Sha'olamhu. So ultimately, Adam Rishon said this wasn't a punishment, rather again, this was the natural course of the world. Vehikriv Shar Shekarnav Kodman Leparsosav. And he offered up a shar whose horns came before its hooves. Now Rashi points out over here what that means ultimately is as follows. Normally when a shar is born, so the horns aren't formed until later. When the HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the animals, so they came out fully formed. Rashi points out the Medrash, they came out from the earth. and as such, again, if they were coming out from the earth, they came out head first from the earth, and as such, the horns came out, so to speak, before the hooves. Shene'emar v'aseitiv la'Hashem misharpar makrin mafris. Amar Rabbi Shmuel shor shehikrev Adam Arishon karen achas haisal b'metzcho. This is interesting that the shor that Adam Arishon offered up Rabbi Osai that first morning when the sun came back up, it had one horn. It had one horn on its forehead. I guess the unicorn. Shaisav v'metzcho shene'emar v'aseitiv la'Hashem misharpar makrin mafris. Makrin tarti mashrava. Makrin also means it was horned. Horned means sounds like it has two horns. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak mikeren ksiv. Even though again we read it makrin, but it can be read mikeren. Mikeren means from the horn. So the Gemara goes weiter. Rav Masna, Amar Masna, Romi she'asta kalanda v'chalayaros hasmuchos la mishtablos la osanayaros asuros amutaros. So we'll say Rav Masna says the following: Kalanda was a Roman yomtiv. So we know that in Rome, for example, on Kalanda you cannot go ahead and do business with the local population because, and again, that's for 3 days before. What about the vassal cities? What about the cities around Rome, which are vassal cities or vassal states to Rome? Now, lav dafka that they subscribe to the same ideology as Rome, but the shaila is, are they governed by the same Avoda Zara commerce restrictions as Rome or not? So the Gemara says, Mu'asuros o mutar. So we'll say, because the concern is, if I do business with these, we'll call them vassal cities, are they then going to take the money or the merchandise, go to Rome, and go ahead and spend it? They're causing the Romans to give shevach to their Avoda Zara. So it says the Gemara, Rabbi Shmuel ben Levi Omer, so Rabbi Shmuel ben Levi says, Kalanda asur lakolhi. Rabbi Shmuel says, Kalanda is asur for everyone. Asur for everyone means, well, I'll say Rome, and all of its vassal cities. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Ina Surah Elalov Dab Bilva. Rabbi Yochanan says no, it's only usher to those who mamish worship it. Tana Kavasei Rabbi Yochanan. So we'll say ultimately again. So we have a Rabbi says Rabbi Yochanan. Take a look for just a moment at Rashi. It's almost right across. Romi Shasta Kalanda Tiknu Osa Yom Lahakri Zvachim Chalayaros Asmuchos Romi Yodin Anu Lasu Shein Mishtabdos La Romi Litin Amas Ula Havilan Kol Sarchayen. So also remember the vassal cities had to pay tribute and supply the major cities of Rome with all of their needs. Aval osana yaros in osim kalanda. Those vassal cities themselves did not celebrate the Yom Tov of Kalanda. Mihavi asher lases velases iman the name of hoil mishubadas l'romi yishlomer mashin konin achshav aviu l'romi l'hakrim benero. So we'll see here the shaila. So the shaila is: do the vassal cities, are they governed by the same Avoda Zara commerce restrictions, even though they don't worship? At the end of the day, because they're going to bring all of their goods to the major city of Rome, perhaps again that will facilitate the Avoda Zara of Rome, and therefore commerce restrictions for Avoda Zara also even in the vassal cities. Machlokas Rabbi Shmuel ben Levi and Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Shmuel ben Levi says yes. Rabbi Yochanan says no. So says the Gemara Tanakh Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi says first Rabbi Yochanan. Afapi Shomer Romi Asta Kalanda. Even though we said that Rome invented Yom Tov of Kalanda, v'chalayaros hasmuchos la mishtabdos la, and all there are many vassal cities. He atzma ein asura elalov der bilvad. So ultimately, again, the only people I will say the only commerce restrictions applies to those who mamish worship Kalanda, who observe Kalanda. However, Satar Nila, Vikar Tosim, V'yom Ginusya Shamalcheim, V'yom Shehum Loch Bo Melech, Lefanav Asr Acharav Mutter. So we're saying all these other Yom Tovim. So ultimately, again, there are commerce restrictions beforehand, but not afterwards. No, suddenly again, if an Ovid Kochavim made a wedding for his son, Ein Asr Ela Osa Yom Bilvad, Ela Osa Yom Va'osa Ish. The commerce restrictions applies only to that individual and on that day. Amar Rashi, Af Anan Nami Tanina. So we'll get to the proof in just a moment. Af Anan Nami Tanina, Diktani Yom Taglachas Zikano Ubloriso. V'yom Sha'ala Ba'al B'nayam, V'yom Sheyatza B'al Mebeis HaSurin, Ein Asr Ela Osa Yom Bilvad, Va'osa Ish. So as it comes on Rashi, Rashi says, listen to this diuk. We said before in the Mishnah that on the day that the akum trims his beard, or his bluris, or on the day ultimately again that he comes up from a sea journey, or when he comes out from jail, I will say on that day, the isser to do commerce is with that individual on that day. Bishlama osayom nafuke lefanav. So the Mishnah says that the commerce restriction is on that day. What does that come to exclude? Abosai? The day before, there's no such, the 3 days, the 3-day restrictions only applies to what we'll call national Yamim Tovim, not to personal Akum Yamim Tovim. So therefore, again, Osa Yom comes to teach me that the day before is permitted. So the Gemara says, Ula'achrav, Ela Osa Ish Lafuke Mai. But also the Mishnah says the restriction only applies to that man. What does it come to exclude? My love la'afuki mishabdav shmamina. Rabbi say, what does it come to exclude? It comes to exclude, Rabbi say, that even in the case of national Yemen Tovim, the only time that there's a commerce restriction, Rabbi say, is where the people of that particular city are mamish worshipping that Avoda Zara. But if at the end of the day they're not worshipping that Avoda Zara, then what? Then the Maisa again, there's no commerce restriction. Therefore, Rabbi say, the Gemara essentially ends off in favor with Rabbi Yochanan. That Allah Maisa again, the Yom Tov of Kalanda, which is a Roman Yom Tov, so all the restrictions of what we'll call Avoda Zara commerce, or I should say, Avoda Zara Yom Tov commerce restrictions only apply in Rome where they're actually worshipping Kalanda. But in the vassal cities, even where they are not worshipping, who do not believe in Kalanda, even though again they are financially tethered to Rome, the commerce restrictions do not apply in those vassal cities, like Rabbi Yochanan will say. Tanya, Rabbi Shmuel Omer, Yisrael Shebechutz is actually an amazing Gemara. Rabbi Shmuel says, Yisrael Shebechutz, Am Yisrael who lives outside of Eretz Yisrael, Ovdei Avodas Kochavim Betarahin. We'll say such an interesting statement. It's talking about us. Jews who live in Chutz La'aretz, they worship Avodah Zara Betara. We'll say, what does that mean? It means you worship Avodah Zara accidentally. Accidentally. Betara means without intent, little impurity, without intention. In other words, the Jews who live in Chutz La'aretz, we end up inadvertently worshiping Avodah Zara. What does that mean? See, the Gemara says, Ketzad, Oved Kochavim Sha'asa Mishtalib, no, because if an Akum makes a wedding for his son, V'zimein Kala Yehudim Shebe'iro, and he goes ahead and he invites all of the Jews in his city, which I will say happens, right? You have an influential Gentile, it's not just Gentile, Akum, right? Who invites the Jews of the city to share in his simcha. V'zimein Kala Yehudim Shebe'iro. I will say, now watch this. Afapi Sha'ochlen Mishalahen. Even though what Rabbi say, right? Mamish, everybody gets their own double wrapped meal, right? Everything is fine. V'shosin Mishalahen, and everybody gets. The Jews get their own wine. V'shamish shalahen, and the Jews have their own mashkiach. Nevertheless, only the fam ma'ala ala akasov ki'ilu achlu mizivchei mesim. It's as if the Jews have eaten from the corpses of the dead. Shene'emar v'karalacha v'achalta mizivcho. Because Rabbi said the Torah speaks about over here. The idea is actually talking about the need to eradicate the Zion Umos, to drive them out of the land, because the Torah says if you go ahead and you create a covenant with them, they will go ahead and follow you, right? You will follow after their gods. You'll worship to their gods. He will invite you, and you will eat of his offering. So the Gemara says, so we'll say, what do you see from here? You see from here that when the Akum invites you to his simcha, and you partake of that simcha, it's as if you are serving his God. Maybe it's only if you actually chas v'shalom eat something not kosher. So Amarava imkein ne'makra v'achalta mizivcho mai v'kara lecha nishas kriya. I will say this is a very dramatic Gemara. Now the Gemara is understanding over here that Lamaisa, even though all of the food is kosher, the fact is when I attend the Akum Simcha, the Akum gives thanks to his God, to his deity, that the Jews have joined in this Simcha, and therefore again, inadvertently, I have gone ahead and participated in Avodah Zara. I will say, this is an incredible, incredible Gemara. And also how the Gemara describes it. I have my own food, I have my own mashkiach, I have my own wine. Everything seems to be fine, except the Torah says explicitly about being careful ultimately, again, with our interactions with the Akum. Because at the end of the day, it could even be V'kar Lecha. Once he invites me, if he gives Shevach to his deity as a result of my presence, then ultimately, again, I'm in violation of participating in Avodah Zara. It's B'tara, it's not my intention, Chas Shalom, it's not what I wanted, but nevertheless, it's what occurs. Hilchach. Therefore, the Gemara says the following. Now, say, obviously, this is talking about over the Avodah Zara. That's what it's talking about. Now, again, in general, and we will discuss this, there are many rabbinic, we'll call it prohibitions or halachas, that govern Jew-Gentile interactions. So we will discuss that. This specifically is focused over here on Avodah Zara. But again, we'll see this in a more global sense. Therefore, called Tlasin Yomin, Bein Amrle Machmas Hilula, Bein Lomer Amrle Machmas Hilula Aser. Therefore, I will say the Gemara says, for 3 days, after the wedding, if I get invited to the, 30 days, thank you. Kol plus, for 30 days after the wedding, right? If I get invited to a Su'uda being made by the Akum, whether he says it's because of the wedding, whether he says it's not because of the wedding, it's because of the wedding. And therefore, what? Asr, I am not permitted to attend that gathering because my attendance, by definition, will give him cause to give thanks to his Avoda Zara. Mikan ve'elach, I will say after 30 days, if the Akum says to me, why don't you come, we're making a post-wedding party, so if he says it explicitly, I can't attend. But if he's just inviting me to a party, and this is after 30 days of the chasana, and he doesn't say that it's for the wedding, then shari. Then ultimately, again, it is permitted. So here's the question. The question is, meaning, is there, even if he says that the post-wedding celebration is in honor of the wedding, is there like a certain point in time where it's no longer wedding related? To which the Gemara says, yes, Amar Papa, Atresa Yarchi Shasa. Ultimately, again, until after 12 months. Meaning, after 12 months already, the simcha of the wedding is over. I don't mean it like that. I mean, like after 12 months of Osai, any follow-up parties that he is making, right, are not associated with the chasana that was made, and therefore again, ultimately, you could attend. So also, there's an interesting question. We'll say, let's say the Akum's doing a little pregame, right? So the shayla is, what about before the chasana, before he wakes the wedding? So at what point in time do we assume that any celebrations made before the wedding are related to the wedding itself? In other words, at what point in time do I have to be choshesh that maybe the pre-wedding celebrations may also be wedding-oriented in nature? Listen to this. Amra pa mishrei derava michiramu sa'ari bi'isanti, or ba'asinti. So we'll say, what does this mean? Look at Rashi. This is actually quite interesting. Rashi says, asinti arevos sheshor behen sa'orin la'aso shechar. We'll say, as soon as they begin to make the beer, party's on, right? As soon as they begin to make the beer, that's considered to be the preparation already for the chasana, and therefore attending ultimately, again, any type of celebrations after the beer is already being made, lemaisa would be problematic. Now Rashi actually says something quite beautiful over here. Lishna achrina, if you look in that same Rashi, nostin afar ba'arebos, v'zorin sham sa'orin, kodim yimei achupa, u'maviyin lifnei achasan va'akala kishein smuchin va'omrim lahem, Peru or Ravu Kisorin Halalo Shemamar and Latzeis Mikol Tavua. Well, this is actually quite beautiful. That apparently they used to have a practice. This is not beer making. Rashi's other opinion is they would take a pot of dirt and they would put in it barley seeds. Why barley? Why barley? Apparently barley is the fastest growing grain. Not apparently, also we know that barley is the fastest growing grain. How do we know this? Carbon Omer. Because you got to remember, the first grain offering we bring is the carbon omer, barley. So we'll say, so what they did is they would plant barley, and as soon as it would begin to sprout, they would give it to the chassan and kala as their first wedding gifts. And they said, just as this barley is quick to sprout, so to this union should Emirat Hashem. I don't know, they didn't say Emirat Hashem, but they should say, so to this union should be fruitful. Quite beautiful. In any event, either by the time you're beginning to make the beer, or the time that they begin to put together the barley plant, that's the beginning of the chasana preparations. Ulabasa tresa yarchi shasa shari. Is that true that after 12 months, Rabosai, after 12 months, we no longer assume that it's wedding celebration, and therefore again you could attend, even if the host says it's about the wedding? Vaha Rabbi Yitzchak Breider Misharshia. Let's listen to this. Rabbi Yitzchak Breider Misharshia ikla lebeahu ovekochavim labasa tresa yarchi shasa. Rabbi Yitzchak, I will say, went to the house of a particular akum who had married off a child 12 months earlier. So Rabbi Yitzchak thought at this point in time there was no problem with him attending a meal because it was more than 12 months before. V'shamei do'ode. So we'll say what happens when Rabbi Yitzchak came, he heard his host uttering like a tefillah, like a Thanksgiving tefillah to his God, to the Akum's God. I'm so privileged, thank you God, so and so. Now obviously the host also somehow linked his praise ultimately to the wedding of his child, and therefore Rabbi Yitzchak didn't eat. Pir shelo achal. Shani Rabbi Yitzchak. So the Gemara says Rabbi Yitzchak is different. Why? The Shani Rabbi Yitzchak Shani Rabbi Yitzchak Beidar Misharshia Da Adam Chashafu. Rabbi Yitzchak is different because he's an Adam Chashav. Look at Rashi. What does it mean? He's Adam Chashav, an important person. V'sameach mimeno ovi kochavim ma'od. We'll say for an Adam Chashav to come to his home, the ovi kochavim would be happy and would link this to the wedding celebration even after 12 months. Okay, so the Gemara goes weiter. The kartosim. My kartosim, I will say, what's this Yom Tov of kartosim? We'll say, what's kartosim? Rabbi Shmuel Yom Shetafsa Bo Romi Malchus. It's the day that Rome seized power. Vatanya kartosim v'yom shetafsa bo Romi Malchus. You have another brayso that speaks of these days separately. There's kartosim and the day that Rome seized power, which sounds like that kartosim is not the day that Rome seized power. We'll say Rome seized power in two different times. Achaz b'mei Cleopatra Malchusa was amazing. One time during the days of Cleopatra, Rashi said b'mei Cleopatra Malchusa shal Alexandria. This is talking about Cleopatra of Alexandria. So we'll say the Romans went to war against Cleopatra of Alexandria, and they seized power like that. And the other time is Yavanim. And one was the time that they seized it from the Greeks. So they seized power, both say, at two different intervals. Amar Tlasin Utrin Karvi Avdu Romai Bahadi Yavani. We'll say, so Ravdimi said the following, that literally 32 battles did the Romans wage against the Greeks. V'lo yochlu lahu, and the Romans were unable to conquer the Greeks, ad shatfinu li Yisrael bahadayu, until they got the Jews as partners. So we'll say, so the Romans partnered with the Jews in order to go ahead and defeat the Greeks. What was the partnership that the empire of Rome, or that the Romans made with the Jews? We'll say, here was the agreement. Iminon malchi, if the king of the empire comes from us, minaychu hafarchi, the governors will come from you. Iminaychu malchi, if the king comes from you, Jews, then minan hafarchi, the governors will come from us. So this is actually a very dramatic partnership. We'll see it never materialized, but ultimately, again, at least it was fascinating that it was thought of. So the Romans understood they needed the Jews. We'll discuss why. To go ahead and defeat the Greeks. The Jews obviously did not have warm feelings towards the Greeks, and therefore again agreed to partner. There was this agreement to share power. Whichever nation the king comes from, the governors will come from the other. So the Gemara says, so the Romans, after securing Jewish partnership, the Romans sent the following message to the Greeks. Up until now, we've been doing battle with each other. Hashta navid bedina. Now, why don't we go ahead and settle this intellectually? So say once they have the Jews on their side, so suddenly again, let's not do battle, but let's settle this intellectually. In other words, I will say let's settle this essentially through a battle of the wits, and whoever could go ahead and be successful, we'll win the battle. So Mar says, so they pose questions. Margalis ve'eventova ezu mehen yaseh bas lechaver. Both say if a person has a margalit is a pearl. So if a person has a pearl and another precious stone, which one should serve as the base? Which one should hold the other? Shochuluhu. So the Greeks sent back margalis eventova. The pearl should go ahead and serve as the base, ultimately again for the eventova, for the other precious stone. So we'll say the assumption is the less valuable object serves as the base for the more valuable object. Even Tova v'Enoch. Similar again, we'll say if you have this Even Tov and Enoch, Rashi says Enoch is Yahalom, another precious stone. Eizem and Yaseh basas lechavero. We'll say which one ultimately again should serve as a base for the other. To which the Gemara says Even Tova leEnoch. The precious stone, the Even Tova, should serve as a base for the Enoch. Enoch v'Sefer Torah Eizem and Yaseh basas lechavero. We'll say if a person has an Enoch, which another is a precious stone, and Sefer Torah, which one should serve as a base for the other? Enoch l'Sefer Torah. Obviously, the Enoch is interesting. Even the Greeks were great appreciators of wisdom. So even the Greeks said that the Enoch, the precious stone, should serve as a base for the Sefer Torah. So we'll say, that was the kunz. So says the Romans and the Greeks, Imgein, Anan Sefer Torah Gabon, the Yisrael Bahadan Kafuluhu. So we'll say Romans said, so essentially Greeks, Yemoda, that there's nothing more important than the Torah. Ultimately, again, everything else serves as the base of the Torah. Well, the Jews are with us. And as such, if Torah has this great supremacy even in your eyes, then you must become the base for us. Ultimately, again, Greek or Greece must go ahead and yield to Rome. And I will say this appears, at least according to this Gemara, to be the end of the Greek-Roman conflict. Although, again, we'll go on with this narrative. For 26 years, the Romans honored the agreement they had with the Jews. Honored the agreement they had, the power sharing. Bad Yisrael. Mikan ve'elech ishtabdu behu. Also, but after 26 years, the Romans turned on the Jews, and they began to afflict us and to persecute us. Meikara ma'idrosh l'basof ma'idrosh. We'll say, what happened? Why did the Romans agree to the arrangement in the beginning, and then what turned them, or what caused them ultimately again to change the terms? So the Gemara says, Meikara drosh nasa v'neilcha ve'elcha lenegdecha. We'll say, at the beginning they saw that their progenitor Esav said to Yaakov, let's travel together. Ve'elcha lenegdecha. I'll walk opposite you. Right, I'll walk opposite you. So they said that even Esav, the Esav, was willing to go ahead and walk side by side with Yaakov. We could share power with the Jews. But at the end of the day, which pasuk did they darshan? Ya'avor na Adoni lifnei avdo. So we'll say then the pasuk says, Ya'avor na Adoni lifnei avdo, v'ani esna l'iti. This is Yaakov speaking to Esav. Esav, you go first. So at first the Romans said, Esav said to Yaakov, let's walk shoulder to shoulder. They agreed to power sharing. And then what happens? They said that Yaakov said to Esav, they interpreted as Yaakov yielded to Esav. You be dominant, we'll be subservient. So we'll say what happens. So Yavor Adonai Lifnei Avdo. So fine. Esrin v'shis shnin dekalmu ben asayu ba'di Yisrael minalan. So we'll say ultimately again, where do we know this idea that they honored the agreement for 26 years? In other words, where do those 20? How do we know that for 26 years they honored the agreement? So we'll say, watch this. The Gemara talks about over here a dramatic timeline. So the Gemara says, "Damar of Kana kishachal Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi shalchulei." We'll say when Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi got sick, became ill. So we'll say he was on his deathbed, and they sent him the following: Shalchulei Rebbe, Amar lanu shnayim v'gimel dvarim she'amarta lanu mishum avicha. Tell us 2 or 3 of the things that you told us over in your father's name. So Rabbi Shmuel is going to die, and therefore the Talmidim will say, we've mentioned this many times before, that when you see these great people about to die, remember again, once upon a time, Torah Baal Peh was Baal Peh. The verbal tradition was transmitted verbally, which means that when a Rebbe died, what happened? Anything he did not give over to his Talmidim went with him to the grave. That's why when the Rebbe gets sick, there was this urgency from the Talmidim to extract as much Torah as possible. Rabbi Shmuel is sick. Rebbe, remind us of the 2 or 3 things that you told us in your father's name. Amar lahu, he said to them, Mea ushmonim shama kodem shenechrav habayis. Was 180 years before the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Pashta malchus harasha al Yisrael. Ultimately, again, the Romans went ahead and extended their rulership over the Jewish people. Peishana ad locharv habayis. We'll say 80 years before the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Gazru tuma ala aretz amim va'akleis chuchas. We'll say we'll discuss this. The rabbis enacted that there should be rabbinic tumah upon the Gentile lands and on glass utensils. Mem shana ad lo charav habayis. 40 years before the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Golsa Sanhedrin v'yashva la bechanus. We'll say the Sanhedrin exiled itself. We'll see they intentionally, of their own volition, exile themselves means, and the Sanhedrin normally sits in the Lishkas Haggasis, the chamber of hewn stone, which is one of the rooms in the Zara, one of the rooms in the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash. They purposely exiled themselves from there and sat in the Chanos. So we'll say, what's the Chanos? The Chanos, Rashi says over here, Makom Bahar Abayis Chanosho. We'll say something amazing. If you ever go by the area of the southern wall excavations, so again, especially if you go by the area right underneath Robinson's Arch, so they've excavated stalls. Stalls. What does it mean, stalls? There were stores there. We'll say right outside of the Herodian compound, there were stores. Because when you were coming to the Beis HaMikdash, people bought stuff. So they literally, again, there were stores. So we'll say, where was the Sanhedrin? We know exactly where the Sanhedrin was. Next time you go to, you have Chusmin Yerushalayim, you look at underneath Robinson's Arch, and somewhere right under there, that's the protrusion from the wall, somewhere right there, the Sanhedrin chose to reside for 40 years prior to the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. Incredible. L'may hilchasa, We'll say, what does that mean? The Sanhedrin exiled itself. What does that mean? For what purpose? We'll say, first of the widest lines, we'll say to teach us that they did not adjudicate knas law, penalty payments. Rashi says, for example, over here, ones umefate shloshim shel eved shenas notar kitzva achas liikar lezalza. So we'll say they would not remember again. We've spoken many times about the chiluk between knas and mammon. What's the difference? We'll say knas is a set amount independent of the reality of circumstances, as opposed to mammon, Rabbi was saying, which is a monetary payment, which is fundamentally dependent on the circumstances in effect. So the Gemara says the following. So could it be that ultimately, again, they did not judge Dine Knasas? How could that be? So the Gemara says, this man is remembered for good. Who is the man? Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava Shmo. And his name is Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. Shemalehu, for not Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, Nishtachachu Dine Knasas mi Yisrael. The laws of Knessos, the laws of Knas would have been forgotten from the Jewish people. Nishtachachu, how could the laws of Knas be forgotten? Ligar sinu, just learn it. I was going to say, this is not some esoteric body of knowledge. How could it be forgotten? Just learn it. Ella, batlu dine Knessos in Yisrael. Other Rabbi say, what we'll see is that without Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, the laws of Knas would have been bottled from Klal Yisrael. We're going to see what that means. Rabbi say is that without Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, the institution of smicha would have stopped. What Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava did to preserve the institution of smicha, Rabbi say, in Meretz Hashem, we will continue with tomorrow. I will just tell you, tomorrow's daf starts with a dramatically overwhelming story. And in Meretz Hashem, the rest of the daf is beautiful as well. But we'll pick up with the story of Yehuda ben Bava in Meretz Hashem tomorrow. Shkoyach. Also, just a reminder, there is a Shachris Minyan at the Strauss Shiva Home. I think it's 3217 Northbrook, right up the block over here. If you could help make the Minyan, much appreciated.